I am 80 years old, and I have been lying to myself for most of my life. Not the kind of lying that hurts other people, the quiet kind, the kind you don't even notice because it sounds so reasonable, the kind that lets you sleep at night while your life slowly empties itself of everything that actually matters. I am sitting in a small apartment now, 2 rooms, a kitchen I barely use, photographs on the wall that nobody looks at except me, and I have more time than I know what to do with. Time I once begged for. Time I said I would use for all the things I was too busy for. And now that I have it, I understand something I wish I had understood 50 years ago. The hard truth is this: I always thought I was building a life, but I was really just building a schedule. And by the time I realized the difference, most of the people I wanted to share that life with were already gone. Let me go back. When I was 23, I married a man named Richard. He was patient. He laughed easily. He had this way of making even ordinary days feel calm. We met at a church picnic, of all places. I almost did not go that day. I had work to catch up on, even back then. But my roommate insisted, and I went, and there he was, standing by the lemonade table, telling a joke to someone I did not know. I remember thinking he had kind eyes. I loved him, and I meant it when I said I would spend my life with him. But I do not think I understood what that promise actually required. I thought marriage was about showing up, about being faithful, about working hard and building something together. And it is about those things, but it is also about something I did not understand until much later. It is about being present, not just physically, but really there, and that is the part I failed at. We had children, 2 daughters. Margaret came first, then Catherine 3 years later. And like most young mothers, I wanted to give them everything: a nice home, good schools, stability. I told myself that a good mother provides, that sacrifice is love, that the work I was doing, the hours I was putting in, was all for them. I worked in accounting, nothing glamorous, long hours, tight deadlines, constant pressure. I was good at it, maybe too good. I got promoted, then promoted again. And somewhere along the way, I stopped noticing what I was trading for each step up. At first, it was small things: a school play I had to miss because of a deadline, a Saturday morning I spent at the office instead of at the park. I told myself it was temporary, that once things settled down, I would be more present. But things never settled down. There was always another quarter, another project, another reason to stay late and come home tired. I remember one evening, Margaret was maybe 7 years old. She had made a drawing at school, a picture of our family. She ran to the door when I came home and held it up for me to see. And I looked at it for maybe 3 seconds before I said, "That's lovely, sweetheart," and walked past her to check my messages. I did not even take the drawing. She put it on the refrigerator herself. I found that drawing years later in a box of old things, and I sat there holding it and I cried, not because of the drawing, but because I could not remember what it felt like to be the kind of mother who would have stopped, who would have knelt down and really looked. My daughters grew up in the margins of my attention. I want to be careful here. I am not saying I was a monster. I wasn't. I showed up for birthdays. I made dinner when I could. I told them I loved them, and I meant it. But I was not fully there, not in the way they needed. And Richard, bless him, he filled in the gaps. He was the one who took them to soccer practice, who sat with them when they were scared of thunderstorms, who knew their friends' names and their teachers' quirks. He did the invisible work of being present while I was busy being important somewhere else. I used to come home and he would tell me things about the girls, little things. Catherine learned to ride her bike today. Margaret had a fight with her best friend. And I would nod and say, "That's good," or "That's too bad." And then I would go to the study to finish something I had brought home from the office. I did not ask follow-up questions. I just checked the box that said I had been informed and moved on. Richard never criticized me for it, not directly, but sometimes I would catch him looking at me with this expression I could not quite name. It was not anger, it was something sadder, like he was watching me miss something I would never get back. I told myself I was doing it for the family, and maybe part of me believed that, but the truth is, I also liked being needed at work. I liked the recognition, the control. At home, everything felt messy and unpredictable, but at work, I had a role, I had a title, I had something I could measure, and so I kept choosing the thing I could measure. When Catherine was 16, she got into some trouble. Nothing serious, skipping school, staying out late. Richard handled most of it, and when I tried to step in to discipline her, she looked at me with this coldness I will never forget. She said, "You don't get to show up now and pretend you care." I was furious. I told her she was being ungrateful, that everything I had done was for her. And she just stared at me and said, "I didn't ask you to sacrifice anything. I just wanted you to be here." I did not know what to say, so I said nothing. I walked away, and we never talked about it again. That is another thing I have learned. The conversations you avoid do not disappear. They just go underground. They become distance. They become silence. When my mother got sick, I flew out to see her once. I stayed for a few days, made sure she had what she needed, and then I went back to the office because there was a deadline. I told myself I would visit again soon, that there would be time. She died 3 weeks later. I was on a conference call when my sister called to tell me. I saw her name on the screen, and I let it go to voicemail. I finished the call before I listened to the message. I did not get to say goodbye to my mother, not really. The last time I saw her, I was already thinking about my flight home. I hugged her at the door of her house and told her I would be back soon. She held my hand a little longer than usual. I thought she was just being sentimental. Now I wonder if she knew. My daughters grew up and moved away. That is what children do, and it is right that they do it. Margaret moved to California, Catherine to Chicago. They built lives of their own, and I told myself I had done my job. But I noticed something when they left. They did not call as often as I expected. When they did visit, there was a politeness between us that felt like distance. We talked about surface things, the weather, their jobs. We did not talk about feelings. We did not talk about the past. I had given them things, but I had not given them me. And now, in their 30s and 40s, they did not know how to be close to me, because I had never taught them. Richard retired before I did. He was 62 and ready to rest. He had hobbies, friends. He seemed content in a way I did not understand. I worked another 3 years because I could not imagine what I would do with myself if I stopped. And when I finally did retire, I realized I had no idea who I was outside of a job title. I sat in our living room those first few weeks and looked at Richard, and I understood that we had become strangers living in the same house. Polite, comfortable, but not close, not anymore. He tried, he suggested trips, dinners, things we could do together now that we had time, and I said yes to some of them. But there was a gap that had opened up over all those years, and I did not know how to close it. I had forgotten how to be still with someone, how to just be present without needing to produce something. Richard passed away 4 years ago, quietly, in his sleep, no warning, no long illness, just there one night and gone the next morning. I woke up and reached for him, the way I had done for 50 years, and he was still. His chest was not moving. I knew before I even checked. I just lay there beside him for a long time. I held his hand, and I thought about all the mornings I had woken up beside him and rushed out the door without saying anything meaningful. All the evenings I had come home too tired to talk. All the weekends I had spent catching up on work instead of just being with him. He had waited for me for years. He had waited for me to slow down, to show up, to be the partner I had promised to be. And I kept telling him later, after this project, after this promotion, after the girls are grown, later, always later. And now he was gone, and later had become never. There is a kind of grief that does not scream. It just sits in your chest and refuses to leave. That is what I carry now, not every day, but most days. This low weight that reminds me of all the time I wasted believing there would be more. My daughters came for the funeral. They stayed a few days, then they went back to their lives. I do not blame them. They have responsibilities. But I noticed how quickly the house got quiet, how quickly I was alone again. They are kind to me now. They call on Sundays usually, but I can hear the effort in their voices sometimes. They do not know me the way I wish they did, and that is my doing. I built that distance, one busy year at a time. I used to think I was being responsible, that I was making the hard choices. But I understand now that I was making the easy ones. It is easy to stay late at work. It is hard to sit with a crying child and have no idea what to say. It is easy to build a career. It is hard to build a relationship. I kept choosing the thing that felt productive, and I called it sacrifice. But the truth is, I was hiding from the mess, from the uncertainty. Work was controllable, family was not. And I chose control over connection over and over again until there was no one left to connect with. And now I sit alone in a quiet apartment, and I have all the time in the world. I eat my meals at the same small table by the window. I watch the same birds come to the feeder every morning. I read books I once said I would read when I had time. And I realize that time by itself is not worth much. What gives time meaning is who you spend it with. And I did not learn that until I had almost no one left. If you are watching this, I do not want to tell you what to do. I am not your grandmother. I am not your guide. I am just a woman who made choices and is now living with the shape of them. But I will say this, if you are putting something off because you think there will be more time, there might not be. If you are telling yourself you will be more present later, later comes faster than you expect. If there is someone you love and you have not told them lately, not in a hurry, not on your way out the door, but really told them, looked them in the eye and meant it, then maybe that matters more than whatever else is on your list today. The people in your life will not wait forever. They cannot. And one day you will look up and they will be gone. Not because they stopped loving you, but because love without presence turns into memory. And memory is not enough. I do not know how much time I have left. Not much, probably. That is not sad. It is just true. What is sad is that I spent so many years rushing toward something I thought would make me feel complete, and it turned out to be empty. The title, the salary, the recognition, none of it kept me warm at night. None of it held my hand. And the things that actually mattered, the people, the moments, the stillness, those were what I kept putting aside. Those were what I told myself I would get to later. I cannot go back. None of us can. But maybe if I say this out loud, Someone younger than me will hear it in time, not as a warning, not as advice, just as one woman's truth. The life I built looked successful from the outside, but I was not in it, not really. I was always somewhere else, believing the real life would start later, and now it is later, and I am alone, and that is the hard truth. Thank you for staying with me through this. I know it was not an easy thing to hear. It was not an easy thing to say, and maybe it stirred something in you. Maybe it reminded you of someone. Maybe it made you think about your own choices, the people you have been meaning to call. Whatever you are feeling right now, I hope you will sit with it for a moment, not push it away, not rush past it to the next thing. Just let it be there. If this meant something to you, I would be grateful if you would leave a thought in the comments below, not for me, but because sometimes when we share what we are feeling, it helps someone else feel less alone. If you feel moved to subscribe, that is welcome too. Not for the numbers, just so that next time we might sit together again. Like this video if it touched you. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who is busy, someone who keeps saying later. And thank you, truly, thank you for watching.